They say that over 3 million people in America alone have a CDL. And from that, 10%, which is around 300,000, are not English proficient. And so coming very soon, these drivers, when put out of service, might be put out of service for over 3 to 7 years. And the reason why is because it takes 3 to 7 years to become English proficient. How's everybody doing out there? This is going to be a longer video today, educational video in trucking. This is about June 25th and about enforcing English proficiency and the frameworks of this and how I truly believe that they will enforce this. And when they do, they will have to ask questions to make sure that you're English proficient. If you are not to their standards, they will have to put you out of service and you will not be able to be back in service until you fix that problem. And to make it short, if you don't have time to watch this video, to be English proficient could take 3 to 7 years, right? And so this is going to hurt a lot of drivers. And I'm going to get into this, but my true opinion, and people are doubtful of this, is they're like, it's been a rule for such a long time. No one's going to enforce this. I beg to differ. Now that the CVSA, the people that do the blitz, which is today's the last day, they're going to add this. And the reason why I believe they're going to add this, and when they do pull someone over, they're going to ask and test every person if they're English proficient. Because if they don't, there's going to be a lawsuit for sure if they try to pick and choose people. What's going on, my truckers? Welcome to My Truck News. Email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. Want to talk about this right here. Just in the heart of the last day of the blitz, we have this international blitz for the last 3 days, and they're pulling over 47,000 truck drivers, right? And why? Because last year, that's what they did. The year before, it was around that number as well. So everybody's worried about, when this English proficiency rule comes into enforcement. Why? Because it's already been a rule and no one's just been enforcing it, right? And so I actually got an email from a driver from Mexico that says, Alex, I'm English proficient myself, but does this affect Mexican and Canadian truck drivers? So let's talk about this. The truth is, it's almost this new thing. The FMCSA stated that they are going to put a framework together, but they have not yet of how they're going to pull over drivers. So just like this year and this last day of the blitz, next year, they're going to add English proficiency to that. So, there could be a lot more drivers put out of service. And if you are a new driver, when you are put out of service for something, you have to get it fixed before you can get back on the road. So if it's stating the same and that goes true, that means that if they deem you to not be English proficient, that means that you can't get back on the road until you are. And when you are put out of service, what ends up happening is that ends up on your MVR. And so if you're trying to work, freight brokers can look at that. Your customers that want to work with you can look at that. So it can really hurt you, right? And so, from an article from Freight Waves, they stated that an insurance company stated that 10% of drivers in America, I'm not talking about Canada and Mexico, in America, 10% aren't proficient in English. So what does that really look like? And how is this framework going to be? And this is just my observation, right? You get Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy into this role. There were airplane crashes, and they were really highlighting that. So with the FAA, he talks about the safety of that because as the Secretary of Transportation, he looks at ships, air, and then trucks. He looks at all of it. He has a lot of focus on the aviation part of transportation. Okay, so since he does, I believe they're going to make the framework after that. And when I started doing research, I'm new to this, so I'm learning as well, right? It says, a commercial pilot, especially flying internationally, you need to have a significant level of English proficiency. I was like, really? And as it is the internationally recognized language of aviation. So the internationally The whole shebang, the whole country. If you're a commercial pilot, the international standard language is English, and you have to be English proficient because all the air traffic controllers all give all the directions in English. So I didn't know that. And so, it shouldn't be shocking that he's going to look at that and build similar frameworks for the trucking industry. Just say this is 2026. This English proficiency is in full force. Why? Because the CVSA actually has the green light from President Trump as of June 25th, which is next month, to give out of service tickets to truck drivers for not being English proficient. It says, this means that if a truck driver cannot demonstrate sufficient English language skills to communicate with safety officials and respond to inquiries, they may be placed out of service. And this is in effect June 25th. Now, this is sources from the actual csa.fmcsa.gov. It states that, violations can affect drivers' commercial driver's license and motor vehicle record, MVR, as well as the carrier SMS data. So it's going to affect your record. And what does that mean? That means that freight brokers, if you're using them, will see it. That means that if anyone wants to employ you, they can see it. So what I see with this in the near future is, depending on if you get put out of service for this, it will end up on your MVR, and freight brokers and trucking companies might not want to work with you because, shippers are going to want English proficient. Why? Because they want to make sure that their load gets there on time. And, I know there's this big push and pull with freight brokers, but if shippers are hitting them hard with, hey, we want, all these drivers to not be out of service and be English proficient because we want our loads to get there and not get put on the side of the road or stuck at the weigh station. As soon as freight brokers start making that a part of their guidelines as well, I could see the future of truck drivers driving a truck and not having a CDL at all. I mean, I could almost see that, right? Now, this is interesting. When I look up English proficiency, right, there is a framework of this called CEFR. So we're going to school on this right here, right? So this is a common European framework of reference for languages. CEFR outlines 6 levels of language proficiency. So it's A1 to A2, which is basic. It says here for those, for A1 can use and understand very basic phrases and everyday expressions. A2 can engage in routine exchanges and express oneself in familiar settings. B1 and B2 is independent, they state, which is intermediate, can discuss topics of personal interest and express opinions. B2 can understand key points of technical or abstract topics. And then it says C1, C2. This is where you want to be, right? They say this is proficient and communicate flexibly and without difficulty in social, academic, or business contexts. C2 can understand virtually everything and can accurately express oneself with precision. So how long does it take for someone to get to the C1, C2 proficient? Well, I looked that up, and it says reaching C1 proficiency in English, often described as an advanced level, can take several years, typically a decade or more, for a non-native speaker to fully develop their level of fluency. So do I expect that DOT is going to be at this level of C1, C2? I don't think so. I think that's where they say that they're going to enforce. But the truth is at the B1, B2 level, where it says can understand key points of technical and abstract topics, I think that's where you're going to want to be. So if I Google right now, how long does it take to be a B2 English proficient? Let's see what it says. Reaching a B2 level in English, which indicates independent user level according to the Common European Framework or Reference, can take anywhere from 600 to 850 hours of instructions. And that equates to roughly 11 to 16 years if studying 1 hour per week, or about 6 months with an intensive immersive course. So it could take someone about 6 months. So if a driver that's stated to be not English proficient, you could be put out of service for over 6 months. And that's if you work hard at this, so is it going to put a lot of drivers out of service? I think it could. I think it really could if they do enforce this. And since the CVSA has that get-go and they have that green light to do it, I can see that happening. And so this is something that, depending on how they streamline this process, they might make you read a book. They might make you read some signs. And if they feel that you are not English proficient, which sucks, because now what that does is it gives DOT the power to say, hey, do I believe this person is safe or not, right? And that's always hard, because depending on if you get a person that is going to be taking this extremely seriously, you might not pass, and you might not, and this could hurt you. So what's the future of this? I really see, I do see freight brokers having this definitely a part of their guidelines. And if you are put out of service for not being English proficient, which is EP, maybe they're going to put it under that, you're not going to be able to work, right? So I'm just here to give you that information. So Mutha Truckers, comment down below, let me know. But, Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, he posts a lot about the FAA. And so if the standard language in aviation for commercial pilots is English, then, this goes on with the safety. So I'm going to see that. So we're really going to have to look at those guidelines, see what they do. But overall, to answer the question, yes, if you're from Mexico, Canada, America, doesn't matter. June 25th, they're going to streamline this. And when they do, if they deem you not to be a English proficient person, which looking at some of these frameworks in education could take you, years to study, you could be put out of service. And, so there's not much I could tell you, but, if you find that you're not comfortable in the English language, take some classes, study up and get better. Because if you want to be a truck driver in America, this is what the rules are. So my truckers, comment down below. Just want to share some information, just give it out to you, and just give you some real guidelines and frameworks that I believe can stand true. And we'll see how much they enforce this coming June 25th. And I do see them enforcing this and streamlining this for the reason that if they only pick and choose certain people, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So to fight against that, they're just going to have to do it for everybody that they pull over for level 1 inspection, or level 2, so my truckers, comment down below.